Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys here joining me to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of stuff. We got 3 new great directors that we're going to be talking about here. Giant opening expectations for Avengers Infinity War. We've got some talking about, have they ever done a good CGI villain and all that sorts of stuff. But before we get to any of that, let's go right off the top with this. A couple of the movies that are opening this weekend, of course, are A Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski. And then, of course, we got Blockers starring John Cena. They both had their preview nights on Thursday. And A Quiet Place did very well with a debut of $4.3 million. Now, what they're saying right now is with that opening, they're expecting that A Quiet Place could make upwards of $30 million for its opening weekend. This small, little, out-of-nowhere little horror film that John Krasinski is directing. Now, if you guys watched my review, I put up my review for A Quiet Place the other day. Spectacular. Absolutely incredible film. It's way too early to say this, granted, but as of right now, I won't be surprised if near the end of the year, if we don't hear some Oscar buzz for Quiet Place. I mean, again, it's way too early to be calling stuff like that. I understand that, but it's just so great. Blockers, not as funny as I wanted it to be, but still pretty funny. Anyway, they're guessing with Blockers, which made about $1.5 million on its preview night, they're guessing Blockers is going to come in somewhere between $16 and $20 million, which if you had asked me about 6 months ago where I thought this movie would have come in, I probably would have said somewhere between $15 and $18 million. So if it comes up to around 20, good for it. Like I said, it's a pretty funny film. I enjoy it. I give it a thumbs up. I recommend it. But if you had one movie you could see this weekend, between Blockers and A Quiet Place, I think you're going to have a good time at both, but A Quiet Place is the film you want to go see. The movie's just stupid good. It's nice to see that's going to probably enjoy a little bit of success as word of mouth starts spreading around about it. All right, now before we get to the main topics, and of course you guys determine the main topics because you email them in to me, I like to make sure you guys are kept up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. So we've got this little segment here for you we call the Movie News Feed. Check this out. First up, the initial tracking numbers for the upcoming Avengers Infinity War film have been released, and they are huge. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Disney insiders are projecting for a $175 to $200 million opening weekend, while other industry sources are putting it at $200 million or a little bit higher. Even in the most conservative estimates from Disney of $175 million, it would still be an historical hit, as only 7 films in history have ever opened to $175 million or higher. The first Avengers movie at $207 million, Black Panther at $202 million, Avengers Age of Ultron at $191 million, Captain America Civil War at $179 million, Star Wars The Force Awakens at $248 million, also the #1 domestic opening box office of all time, Star Wars The Last Jedi at $220 million, and Universal's Jurassic World, which opened to $208 million. It's fair to say this is going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. And let's keep in mind, as we get closer to the movie opening, these numbers could even go up, but even if they don't, it's still going to be one of the biggest movies ever. Next up, as most of you know by now, Amazon is launching a Lord of the Rings television series. Now, new details are starting to emerge that include the fact that Amazon has committed to no less than 5 seasons of the show, and the estimated budget could come in around the $1 billion mark. Other interesting notes include the fact that the series, while technically a prequel series to the events of the book The Fellowship of the Ring, could include some material from the Lord of the Rings movies. And on top of all that, it is also being reported that Peter Jackson himself is having some discussions about coming on board the project in a producer role. As reported at Slash Film, Jackson's attorney helped start a dialogue between Peter Jackson and Amazon, and the ball's in the filmmaker's court as to whether or not he wants to be a part of the show. If Peter Jackson does come on board, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility to imagine him directing at least a few episodes. Look, Amazon and every streaming service wants their own Game of Thrones type show, and it's clear that Amazon really believes that Lord of the Rings is it, and they are going all in on it. Next up, Solo, a Star Wars story, what a stupid name, it should just be called Star Wars Solo anyway, is set to hit theaters on May 25th. However, we have just learned when the film will have its world premiere. According to Deadline, Solo will have a surprise debut at one of the most celebrated film festivals in the world, the Cannes Film Festival. From Deadline, sources said that the Lucasfilm origin story will premiere at a special screening on May 15th, before the picture makes its global premiere date of May 25th. The Ron Howard-directed origin story stars Alden Ehrenreich as a young Han Solo, the role made famous, of course, by Harrison Ford. Donald Glover plays Lando Calrissian, and Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke, Woody Harrelson, Paul Bettany, and Thandie Newton will also star in the film. So I guess if you're a major Star Wars fan and want to see this movie first, start buying your airline tickets for France. Next, the graphic novel series Y: The Last Man has spent years trying to get a feature film off the ground. At one point, even director DJ Caruso and actor Shia LaBeouf were both attached to helm and star in the film, but that ultimately went nowhere. However, it looks like the series is now heading to television. According to Variety, FX has ordered a pilot based on the comic book series. Exploring gender, race, class, and survival, Y: The Last Man is a post-apocalyptic science fiction story that takes place in a world in which all men, except one, are dead. Beginning in 2002, the comic book series by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerrera, and published by DC Comics, ran for 60 issues. It received 3 Eisner Awards, the top honor in the comic book industry, as well as the first Hugo Award for Best Graphic Story. And why not? I mean, Brian K. Vaughan just had one of his other titles make a successful transition to TV in The Runaways for Hulu. And finally, it's being reported that actor Jake Gyllenhaal will both produce and star in the upcoming Focus Features thriller project, Welcome to Vienna. According to the tracking board, Gyllenhaal will play Freddie Macon, a civilian surveillance contractor in Vienna who has been watching a Chinese academic named Jiang Cheng for the past year. When Freddie interrupts a break-in at his apartment, the intruder escapes, only to return to try and kill him later. Now Freddie has to figure out who is trying to kill him and why, all while he tries to hide the past that he's been running away from. Jake Gyllenhaal's just kind of proved himself to be one of the best actors of the world, and if he's on board, I'm on board. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. All right, and now you are all caught up on everything going on in the world of movie news. Now, before we get into the main topics, you know how we were just talking about A Quiet Place? Well, I got some homework for you guys. As you guys know, we are being sponsored right now by the Stardust app. I love using this app. It's a lot of fun. I just put up my reaction for Rampage. I just saw Dwayne Johnson's Rampage last night, and I put my reaction to the film up on my Stardust app. So make sure you download the Stardust app. The Stardust app, the link is in the description below. Go grab it there. And here's my homework assignment for you guys. When you see A Quiet Place this weekend, jump on the Stardust app, record your review and reaction to it. Make sure you tag me at John Campea. Remember, just record your reaction and review. Then once that's done, just hit the little at tagging button and then tag me at John Campea to make sure I see your review, because I want to put together a clip video of your guys' reactions to A Quiet Place on Monday. So that's your homework assignment. See A Quiet Place, hop on the Stardust app, record your review and reaction, make sure you tag me in it, and maybe you'll see yourself on the John Campea Show on Monday. All right, now it's time to get to the main topics that you guys have emailed in to me. How do you email in a topic or question? It's simple. Email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line, and as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's jump into it here. And the first question today comes to us from Sly Cooper, who writes, "Hey John, I have a concern about Infinity War." Okay. "Thanos is a CGI baddie. CGI baddies never look threatening or real, no matter how polished they are. Do you think this will be a problem, even though he'll be killing people left and right? Have CGI baddies in live action ever worked?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And I have some concerns about Infinity War too. Like, most of my concerns don't surround Thanos. My concern about Infinity War revolve, and again, I'm not saying it's going to be, I think it's going to be amazing. I'm just saying, if we had to be honest and say what our concerns are, my concern is that the film may feel convoluted. Simply because there are just so damn many characters in the movie. So that's my fear. I'm not really worried about the baddie or the thing. Now, yes, We did just have a pretty bad experience with Steppenwolf in Justice League. And I like the Justice League movie. But if I'm going to be honest, one of the down things was that the CGI and the character just didn't look so good. The question is, has there ever been a good use of a CGI baddie? And I'm going to say, yeah, there really have. First of all, I think Davy Jones, even though I didn't love that Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I thought Davy Jones looked great and was a great villain in that Pirates of the Caribbean movie. How can you not talk about Gollum in Lord of the Rings, portrayed by Andy Serkis? That villain was amazing. And speaking of Andy Serkis, who of course did the CGI motion capture for Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, Koba. Koba was a wonderful CGI villain. I mean, that was fantastic. You got there's three right off the top of my head. Davy Jones was a good one. Koba's a good one. Gollum's a good one. And sticking with the Lord of the Rings motif, Smaug. I thought Smaug in that Hobbit movie was great. Even a lot of people who didn't like those Hobbit movies really liked the dragon. They thought Smaug was a great villain. So, yeah, I absolutely think. Now, we can easily come up and think of some bad examples of CGI villains, sure. But you can do the same for live action. You can think of good villains, you can think of bad villains. And in the realm of CGI, there have been some very good CGI villains that have looked great and been great characters. And there have been some bad ones. So that's film. But yes, absolutely, I think there are good examples for good CGI villains. And that's why I think we can have a lot of hope for Thanos. I think Thanos has looked great in the trailers. I mean, who knows? Thanos may come across looking terrible. I mean, we're just not going to know till we see it. I like what I've seen in the trailer so far. That may be different from the movie, sure. But I do think there is enough precedent there that we can have some hope that, yeah, CGI villains absolutely can work. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Can you think of some good CGI villains that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head? Jump down to the comments section. Let me know what you think. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Evan Jacobson, who writes, "Hey, John. Out of these three young actors turned directors who have had great success with recent movies, who are you most excited to see from next? John Krasinski of Quiet Place, Jordan Peele from Get Out, or Joel Edgerton, The Gift?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, these are three directors, performers, actors turned directors that have just crushed it. Just crushed it recently. First of all, out of the gate was Joel Edgerton. I didn't think The Gift looked all that great. I didn't think The Gift looked all that great. And then I saw it and it's like, wow, this was really good. If you haven't seen The Gift that Joel Edgerton directed, check it out. It is totally worth a watch. I think you'll really enjoy it. Of course, last year, what Jordan Peele did with Get Out is well done. He won an Academy Award, not for directing, but for I believe it's for his script. He won the Academy Award, and I think Get Out was nominated for Best Picture. And now you got John Krasinski with A Quiet Place. Here's how I'll rate it. And I like all of these movies. I'm going to go in the number 3 spot. I'm most excited to see what Joel Edgerton does next. Now, I loved what he did with The Gift. I do. But it's not a knock that I'm putting him at number 3. I really am looking forward to what he does next. But I'm just looking forward to what the other two did a little bit more. In the number 2 spot, I'll put Jordan Peele. I really enjoyed Get Out. I didn't necessarily think it deserved to be nominated for Best Picture, but I really enjoyed it. It's quite good. I liked it a little bit more than The Gift. So whatever he does next, I'm really curious about. But John Krasinski, after seeing Quiet Place, because the thing about Quiet Place, and I mentioned this in my movie review about it, it's all directing and performance. Because you're talking about a movie with hardly any dialogue in it. Like, there's not a ton of dialogue in this movie. It's all in the direction and then the performances that the director gets out of his actors. And it's stunning. It's such a good movie. Your guts are turning inside out, but there's emotional connectivity in there as well. It's a beautifully done movie. And it's a really quick, I think it's like 90 minutes. Like, it's a really good, quick clip of a movie. I just adore it. So I'll go, even though I love all three of these guys, I'm looking forward to everything these guys are doing. In number 3, I'll put Joel Edgerton as far as my anticipation for what I'm going to see from them next. Number 3, Joel Edgerton. Number 2, Jordan Peele. Number 1, John Krasinski. But look, whatever any three of these guys put out, I'm going to be excited about watching. right now. So anyway, jump down in the comment section. How would you order that out of the 3? Jump down in the comment section. Let me know how you would put your order. All right, let's move on now to the final question. And the final question today comes to us from Jeremy Laughton, who writes, "Hey, John, long time, first time." Thank you so much, Jeremy. Did you see that the first set of tracking numbers have come out for the Avengers Infinity War? The sites I read were saying it would open somewhere between 175 and 200 million, making it one of the biggest openings of all time. However, there have been some rare occasions when we've seen these kinds of movies open bigger than their tracking. Do you think this could be one such case? Thanks, and bring on that filthy. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jeremy. And yeah, as we talked about in the movie news feed, the initial projection numbers have come out for Avengers Infinity War, and to nobody's surprise, it is tracking to be one of the biggest openings in cinematic history. Now, as we mentioned in the movie news feed, even if it opens at the bottom end of the estimates, which is 175 million, even if it opens at the absolute bottom end of that, you're talking about a number that only 7 other films in history have ever opened to that number or higher. Wrap your heads around that for a second. At the very bottom of the estimates, Infinity War is opening amongst the 7 biggest openings of all time. That's crazy for the bottom estimate. Now they're saying upwards of 200 million. Okay, great. That puts it in the upper echelon of the biggest openings of all time. But here's the thing. These tracking projection numbers, a lot of people like to say, because they think it makes them sound cool, that tracking numbers are never right. No, about 95% of the time, they're pretty bang on. About 95, 96, 97% of the time, they're within about 10%. So that's pretty good. But think about that for a minute. Let's say it comes in around 200. Let's say it makes 210, 215, whatever. Even within that 10%, I talked about this on Open Mic yesterday, even if it is just within 10%, you're talking about adding another 25 million on top of that. Now you're talking about a possibility here that even with these projection numbers within the 10% margin of error, you're talking about a possibility here of something that I did not think was possible 6 months ago, which is it is possible that Infinity War could break that all-time opening weekend box office record, currently being held by Star Wars The Force Awakens at like $240+ million. Even at these tracking numbers, that puts it within the realm of possibility, something that I did not think was possible a few months ago, that Infinity War could very well break that record. It's going to be tough because there's just not many seats left. Like I remember when when Star Wars The Force Awakens opened up, every theater had it playing on every screen and every seat was sold with theaters running at 24/7. That's almost as max as you can get. How you beat that, I'm not really sure. But it's possible. It is possible mathematically. I still don't think, and I could be wrong here, I still don't think Avengers Infinity War breaks the all-time record, but it coming in the number 2 or number 3 all-time spot is very easily within reach. Very easily within reach. And what I didn't think was even possible before, it breaking the all-time record, I now think is possible. Looking at these tracking numbers, it's possible. And excitement is building. People are getting hyped. We're getting closer and closer to its release date. So let's just keep our eyes on this, guys. This movie, look, either way, this movie's going to be huge. And either way, whether The Force Awakens keeps the record or whether Avengers Infinity War breaks the record, Disney wins. So Disney wins. Like Star Wars keeps the record, Disney wins. Avengers Infinity War takes it, Disney wins. Either way, Disney wins. But look, clearly, this movie's going to be massively huge, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a lot more between now and April 27th when this damn thing opens. All right, with that out of the way, guys, let's save a little bit of time here to take some of your live questions. You guys have already been firing them in, so let's jump over to the live questions right now. And we start things off with this. Rex Cousins writes in, "Hey, John, did you see the first episode of Legion? I loved it, but do you think it is too weird for most people and therefore it may not last long?" I haven't watched the premiere episode of season 2 yet. For those of you who don't know, like I checked out when Legion first aired, the first pilot, I didn't like the pilot, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people did. I didn't. Actually, Ann and I both, we watched it and we both did not like the pilot episode at all. And I checked out of the show, didn't watch it again. Then about 7 weeks later, I had enough of you guys saying, John, you gotta go back and try it again. You gotta go back and try it again. So finally I said, fine, I'll go back and try it again. And I got hooked. I still didn't like the debut episode, but after that, I got totally on board with that show, and I love the season finale. It was terrific. I'm very much looking forward to watching the new season. However, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Ann and I were just talking about that this morning, that later tonight when she gets home from work, I'm going to make us dinner. We're going to sit down. We're going to watch the first episode of Legion. I'll let you guys know my thoughts, probably on Stardust or here on the show. Once I check it out. So keep your eyes open for that. But no, I've not watched it yet. But you do mention one thing. I think the show is so weird that it's not going to work for a lot of people. And therefore, I don't think Legion will ever be a smash hit. Because it's just positioned in such a way that it's not going to appeal to enough people. But it's quality enough that it's going to get a decent-sized audience, and I think they're going to maintain that decent-sized audience. So I think it can be successful without being a big major hit, and I think it will be successful. Who knows? Maybe season 2 will suck. I mean, I don't know yet. But I think it can be successful without being a big major hit at the same time. It's not 100 or 0. You know, it's not black or white. I mean, it can get 65 and still do really well. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Gonorrhea with the Wind writes, have you ever had an encounter with a celebrity that acted like a total dick? Yep, totally have. I'm not going to tell you who they were. That wouldn't be nice of me. But yes, because here's the thing about, and I think people forget this about celebrities. You see, you have bad days. I have bad days. Celebrities have bad days. And in every single day, you have bad moments. I have bad moments. Celebrities have bad moments. The difference between you, me, and the celebrities is that nobody else on the planet cares if I have a bad moment or cares if you have a bad moment. But the celebrity folks, they always have cameras in their faces. People are always watching them. And when they ever have a bad moment, word gets out just like that. Like I've heard so many times, like we're talking about one actor and someone says, oh, I heard they're a total jerk because this one time my cousin's friend's sister was on set and saw him yelling at a delivery guy. And therefore we paint the celebrity with this big brush. Oh, then they're an asshole, period. When the reality is, you know, the only difference between them and us is that there's a microscope on them. So have I had situations with celebrities where I've seen a celebrity act like a total jackass? Yes. But at the same time, that's just one moment. You don't take a movie and judge an entire movie based on one frame. And I don't like to judge people just on one little thing. Like, oh, they were rude to one person once. You know, so I'll not share that. I will not share the ones I've come across that have acted like dicks just because, you know, I mean, again, if everybody had a camera on me when I had a bad moment, you would all think, like, none of you would watch me. And if there was a camera on you in your bad moments, I wouldn't want to talk to you. So, I mean, it's kind of different, but so I'm just going to keep that to myself for now. Fair question, though. Gonorrhea with the Wind asks kind of a follow-up question, I guess. Favorite, most memorable Junket interview? Oh, that's simple. I've had many, let me just see if I can pull this picture up here quick. I've had many really great, where did it go? Many great experiences in Junket interviews. I mean, for the most part, Junket interviews are really boring. There we go. What's that? Junket interviews are really, really boring. And I stopped doing them because nobody watches them. And the amount of hours it takes to do one of these Junket interviews is crazy. Like I added up once and I figured out I'm putting about 7 man hours into a 3-minute interview that nobody's going to watch anyway, right? So eventually I just stopped doing Junket interviews in general. But I've had a couple of really fun, great interviews. But by far, my favorite one that I ever did, the one I'll always remember most, was the one that I did with Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth for Avengers Age of Ultron. I walked into that, I've told this story before. I walked into that room, they were having a camera issue, which happens quite a bit. They were resetting something. And we just started talking about some shit and just started like laughing our guts out. And the two Chris's, Hemsworth and Evans, they just couldn't reel it back in after that. After that, they were done. Like the entire rest of the interview, I remember us going into it and talking about, and they had just lost it. And then I remember, I was asking this one question. We tried to pull it together, right? Before the cameras start rolling, right? So I asked this question. I think I did a better job than they did pulling it together. But I asked this one question. It's like, you guys are great in this movie, but, the Thor character in particular had this real story arc and whatever. And Chris Hemsworth goes, like, I can't remember exactly how it went, but something like, yeah, well Thor was great, but, Captain America, meh. And then Chris, like, Evans loses it. And then we just start talking about the most random shit. Anyway, most of the stuff was never caught on camera. A lot of it was. But it was a crazy experience. It was crazy and it was fun. And I just had a world of respect for those two guys after that. And that was probably in there for a good 15 minutes with them. And it was a hoot. It was an absolute hoot. So that's my favorite experience. Or at least most memorable Junket interview at that point. All right, Brendan Torres writes, experienced the most talkative, disrespectful audience last night when I tried to watch A Quiet Place. Theaters need staff in the auditoriums. It's really unfortunate because I found my experience in auditoriums in movie theaters has gotten better and better over the years. And I haven't had a bad experience like the one you're mentioning here in a long time. But they still do happen from time to time. You're right. Now, here's the thing. You take a theater like AMC Burbank 16, there's 16 theaters in there. That's a lot of money to hire 16 extra people to make sure somebody's in every theater. But maybe they should have like one person or two people that just go from theater to theater. And that's what they do. They go into one theater for a minute. They go into the next theater for a minute. They go into the next theater for a minute. They go into the next theater for a minute and just, rotate. So somebody's spot checking. Because when things get really, especially a movie like A Quiet Place, where since there's so little dialogue, anybody whispering, for example, honestly, I don't mind when somebody in front of me talks to a person next to them if they're trying to be quiet. Like if somebody leans over and goes, oh my gosh, I love that scene. That was great. And like, if they're trying to be considerate and whisper, that doesn't bother me, to be honest with you. It's when people go, oh, can you imagine if that happened to us? Yeah, like that's different. And I think maybe having rotating staff people to keep an eye on things like that, because theaters need to do things to increase the enjoyment of the theater going experience. And I think one of the simple ways they can address that without spending too much money on extra man hours, because that would be expensive, is just have somebody rotating through the theaters. Just, to go check in, be there for a minute, make sure everybody's behaving themselves, move on. If somebody's not behaving themselves, just approach and say, excuse me, just want to ask you if you could be a little bit more quieter in respect for the rest of our patrons. Something little like that can go a long way. So I'm sorry you had that experience. I'm really lucky that I haven't had one like that in a while, but they need to do something for sure. All right, KW Garrett writes, has technical glitch ever caused you to have an on-camera outburst? My favorite freakout is Bill O'Reilly on Inside Edition. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Never on camera, but... Oh, Dennis could tell you some stories. Then we went through a period of time when we were at AMC, and we had just moved into the new studio, and... we're doing the show from the new studio and all this kind of stuff. And we really struggled for about 6 months with technical issues. Like we couldn't get a reliable internet service to service our building. We were for a while, we were using Sprint hotspot boxes, like 4G hotspot boxes to do our business with. We were an internet show that didn't have internet in our building. And that was frustrating. And we had a number of things. And I remember this one day, I can't remember the specific story, but it was a massive news story. Like this massive news story was out that day. And it was going to be a big day for our show. And we started the show and got like 10 minutes into it. And the internet crapped out and we lost the feed and we lost the show. And I remember, I didn't take it out on anybody, but I lost my shit. I'm like, smash the table. So mad. I didn't aim it at anybody else. I was just so mad and so frustrated that it was going to be a really big day for the show because of the big news. And we were going to talk about it was going to be so much fun. And we lost it because of a technical issue. and because of a technical glitch. And I remember I just lost my shit. I went crazy. I stormed out of the studios, went to my office just to make sure I didn't take it out on anybody, because it wasn't any of our tech guys' fault. It wasn't any of our talent's fault. It was nobody's fault. Just the internet crapped out. I was so mad. But fortunately, that wasn't caught on camera. And they didn't catch it on. So no, I've never had something like that where it was on camera. But I mean, the only time, it wasn't a technical glitch. The one time I really lost my temper was, I remember I was doing a show once, and Aliens, what was the name of the last Aliens movie that they just did? I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the latest Aliens movie. Somebody wrote in on the live chat board that I didn't like the show because they forced a gay character on us, and I think it was a gay character, and they forced a mixed race couple on us, because there's this couple in the movie that they're a mixed race couple. I just didn't like that they forced that on us. And I'm still surprised how many people don't realize I am in a mixed race marriage. And I lost my temper at that comment. And I'm like, oh, really? You don't think? Well, fuck you. And I kind of went off a little bit. So I was kind of pissed off. But as far as on technical issues, never really on a technical issue. All right, I just got a few minutes left here. Sorry, guys, I'm going really slow through these things. Jedi Knight and friend to Captain Solo writes, Indy 5 hands torch to Dead Mutt's daughter, Alicia Vikander. There you go. That's your perfect tie-in. That's where you take Tomb Raider. That's how you continue Indiana Jones. Hands it off to Alicia Vikander, who's Indiana Jones's granddaughter. Perfect. Love it. Matthew Koss writes, New Jersey Devils are in the playoffs. Good on them. Yeah, good game yesterday. New Jersey Devils will always have a special place in my heart just because Martin Brodeur was their goalie for so long, and he was one of the greatest goalies to ever play the game. Quite frankly, there were years when your team was not all that good. They just had the record of a good team because of Martin Brodeur. But whatever, he was part of the team. But yeah, good on them for making the playoffs. That's great. Mary writes, new t-shirt request. We're very polite people, but you don't want to fuck with us either. That came up, what was that, in yesterday's open mic show, where somebody was asking questions about Canadian stereotypes. I said, we're very polite people, but you also don't want to fuck with it because we can get pretty nasty. Dark Knight 46K writes, every time I rewatch the Infinity War trailer, the line that always gives me chills is when Thanos says, I hope they will remember you. It's a powerful line, it is. And the trailer makes it look like he's talking to Tony Stark. But we don't know for sure that he's talking to Tony. That could be a little bit of misdirection in the trailer. He could be talking to somebody else. But you're right, it is a power, and it tells us a little something about Thanos. Scary villains are the ones who think they're in the right, and even scary villains are the ones who have a code of honor. And it almost kind of reveals to us that Thanos, as being the most evil and threatening thing in the universe, he has his own version of a code of honor, it seems like, which makes him all the more intriguing of a villain. So you're right, I absolutely love that line in that trailer. Mary writes, what film made you a cinephile? Mine was Back to the Future. I instantly wanted to know anything and everything about filmmaking after I watched it. Well, I've told this story before. My lifelong love affair with movies was started incredibly early. And again, it's my earliest childhood memory is my mom showing me Star Wars. That's it. My life path was set kind of at that moment. That is the movie that made me fall in love with movies. And I don't even have so young, I don't even have another childhood memory till like years after that. But it was my mom showing me Star Wars, and that is the film that started it all for me. Drew G writes, rename open mic to Felipe and Friends. Yeah, because Felipe is always making an appearance in there. Jabin Carter writes, over under 99.9%. Infinity War opening weekend, $5 trillion. Don't laugh. It is crazy how many people throw these ridiculous numbers out. I've had serious conversations with people saying, Infinity War is going to make $350 million opening weekend. It's like you are not grasping the concept of supply and demand. There are simply not enough theater seats to ever get any film to that number. That number of theaters and theater seats and potential screenings and all that kind of stuff, there's not enough of them, don't exist to get to that number. It is mathematically impossible. Nope, it's going to make $350 million opening weekend. It's like, you're not getting it. Okay, let me put it this way. Let's say I am selling dice, and I got 4 dice to sell, all right? I got 4 dice to sell. Here you go, 4 dice. I can only sell 4. That's how many I have. There are simply 4 dice. I've only got 4. And you can't say, well, that Dungeons and Dragons game, they're going to buy 7 dice. You're not getting it. They can't buy 7 dice because I only got 4. That's as many as I got. There's no more than that. That's all there is. Yeah, but Dungeons and Dragons is so great, they'll buy 7. You're not getting it. There's 4. Only 4 available. So that's why when people are like, because I'm telling you, there are some people out there who seriously believe that Infinity War is going to make 350 million, 400 million opening weekend, and trying to explain to them that's not mathematically possible. Even if there was $400 million worth of people who wanted to see it opening weekend, it's not mathematically possible. It could break the Force Awakens record. It's going to be tough, but it's not making $350 million opening weekend. Anyway. Okay, just a couple more quick questions here. Daniel Briggs writes, A Quiet Place was awesome, but the best part was watching the audience crap itself when a guy dropped a coin. Anything like that happen with you? Oh, no, I love being in movies when you can... It's difficult when I'm watching a movie for the first time, but one of the things I love is when I'm in a movie for its second, third, fourth, fifth screening, whatever, is when there are these big moments coming up, whether they're big funny moments or big scary moments, turning away from the screen and watching the audience. And just so I can watch their reactions to things. That's great. I didn't get a chance to do that with A Quiet Place because it was my first screening of it. But I can't wait to watch it again and just watch the audience for the big moments that I know are coming up. Mike Zambrano writes, what do you think of the movie Wolf with Jack Nicholson? Wolf? Hold a second. Which one is that? Oh, that one. Okay. No, not much. Not much at all. I was thinking you were talking about like a 1970s film. You're talking about the actual like whoop. No, I didn't like it. I kind of passed on it pretty quick. So no, did not dig that one much at all. Let's see. James McGee writes, Avatar 2 won't be released until 2020. Do you think that this movie will be successful given that the first one was released almost a decade ago? Successful? Yes. It will be successful. How successful is another question altogether. It'll make money. It's not going to make the first Avatar a bit of money, but it doesn't need to make the first Avatar money to be really successful. So successful, yes. Just how successful becomes the question. HV39000 writes, Hey John, do you think it will be obvious that the title, what the title of Avengers 4 will be when we watch Avengers 3? No, I don't. I think we'll have some guesses. I think once we see Avengers 3, knowing that they're hiding the title of Avengers 4 for a spoiler's sake, I think that will let us narrow it down the options, but I don't think it's going to be obvious. I think some of us will guess it, but I don't think it's going to be obvious. Not yet. Krieger119 writes, now Holloway is out. WTF, SMH, maybe Pettis. Yeah, they're talking about Pettis now. For those of you who didn't know, there's a big MMA fight coming up. It was supposed to be Khabib versus... why am I freezing on... Ferguson. It was supposed to be Khabib versus Ferguson. Then Ferguson went out because of an injury. They brought up Max Holloway, who is the, I believe, featherweight champion. They brought him up to lightweight to fight for the title. Now they've declared him medically incapable of fighting. So now just like 3 days before the fight, or the day before the fight, they're talking about maybe putting in Anthony Pettis for it. Khabib's going to destroy Pettis. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure I'm going to watch the card now. I mean, they just lost, although the Rose fight and the JJ fight, the Rose and JJ fight is still there, and that's a really intriguing fight. Okay, last 2 questions. Luna Comics writes, I noticed you also talked about UFC on this channel. Just need to know what other things you talk about besides movies. I'll bring up whatever anybody wants to bring up. I mean, we focus on movies and TV. Everybody knows I'm an MMA junkie. I mean, I've trained MMA a lot. I'm a big MMA fan going all the way back to when I first fell in love with it during UFC number 2. So people like to bring that up a bunch. But hey, you can ask anything you want if you really want to. Let's see. Luna writes, did you see the last episode of Gotham? Not yet. I've got it queued up. I'm going to watch it probably today, but I have not seen the latest episode yet. Let's Lindro Fonseca just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Lindro. Mustach Reviews writes, hey, John, did you watch Gotham tonight? They finally revealed Jerome's twin brother. Oh, well, spoiler. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Guys, use your head. Please use your head when you're putting in. I know you probably meant well and everything, but please use your head when you're putting stuff in the live chat. Please. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this installment. Sorry to end it on a downer note. That just killed my buzz, man. You gotta think. That was really inconsiderate, dude. That was really inconsiderate. But anyway, that will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, guys, your homework assignment. Make sure you watch A Quiet Place. Download the Stardust app. Again, the link for the Stardust app is in the description of this video. Record your review and reaction to A Quiet Place. Make sure you tag me at John Campea on your thing, and maybe you will see yourself in our roundup of your reviews and reactions come Monday. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today. Don't forget, guys, a little bit later today, we got a whole show of just open mic at 2 p.m. Make sure you come back for that. And guys, for those of you who sent in live questions and I didn't get around to them, don't worry, we're going to have a companion video a little bit later today. So all those live questions you just sent in that I didn't have time to get to, they will be answered on the companion video a little bit later. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.